Well, you just got to know a little bit about Tennille from Tasha. Now we know that she is apparently an incredible, remarkable dog. So let's take a little time to get to know Trevor Thomas, Tennille's equally remarkable partner. As Tasha mentioned, Trevor is a blind, long-distance hiker. To his credit, listen to this, he has successfully thru-hiked both the 2,175-mile Appalachian Trail and the 2,663-mile, to be exact, Pacific Crest Trail. Yeah, it's not just sort of a day hike kind of thing. He is the founder of a group called Team Farsight, which challenges the social misconceptions about people who are blind by showcasing their abilities. His latest accomplishment was completing the Mountains to Sea Trail in North Carolina, a hike he completed solo with only his guide dog, Tennille, by his side. So let's watch a short video about Trevor and Tennille.
On April 6, 2013, blind hiker Trevor Thomas and his faithful guide dog Tennille set out to conquer the 950-mile Mountains to Sea Trail, covering the entire state of North Carolina. This is their story.
I'm going to hike, and I'm going to do it just like anybody else. I'm going to choose my own routes. I'm going to stop where I want to stop. I'm going to go when I want to go, and this is it. This is totally my choice. This is my planning, my routes, my everything.
Come on, let's go, baby.
Well, I decided to do this particular trail because it was different than any of the other long trails that I have done in the past. I needed something that would further challenge my skills, to be able to push things to the next level, to continue to see what the limit was on my abilities. This trail in particular was not very well traveled, so the decision making would be mine. The decisions that I made, I wouldn't be able to have that comfort level of having somebody there to say, yes, you're correct, or no, you're not, you need to go this other way. So it was going to be as close to 100% self-reliance as I could find. I've had Tennille for going on a year now, and she has made a vast difference in my life on so many different levels. I wanted to give back, some people call it paying forward, to the school that I got her from, which is Guide Dogs for the Blind. I wanted to help them be able to showcase unconventional ways that a guide dog can benefit somebody who's either sight impaired or is blind. When I had my cane, being blind for me was a negative experience. The cane made me stick out like a sore thumb, and it actually, in my experience, was applied a negative stigma to me. People would either, maybe because they didn't know what to do with me as a blind person, they would stay away, or they would try to smother me. They wouldn't accept me as a person. What I found from having Tennille is blindness is now a positive experience. People are interested in the dog. That gives me the opportunity to educate. And that's been wonderful. It really, really has.
We're 879 miles in on this journey. We're standing in front of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. And even though I've finished this trail 100 times in my mind, right now it's starting to feel very, very real and very possible. I couldn't be more proud of Tennille. She's done a wonderful job, and everything we've worked so hard upon for the past year is actually paying off. So it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. It'll be nice to be finished. It'll be nice to have the accomplishment, but it'll also be sad in a sense. This has been an amazing journey, and I'm sad to see it coming to an end, but that just leaves the door open for new challenges, new possibilities, and yet more adventures.
The exciting thing for me on the beach, and I actually think it was exciting for Tennille as well, is that that's when people had seen enough newscasts, seen enough, or read enough newspapers that they knew where we were. They knew we were coming. And the people came out in droves to support us. It was the most amazing feeling to have people you'd never met go to the beach, sit on the beach in anticipation of you coming by so they could yell words of encouragement to you. So if in small part what I'm doing with hiking this trail is going to raise awareness for what a guide dog can do, the unconventional things that most normal people wouldn't associate with a guide dog, will make people take note and hopefully also open their checkbooks and donate money. That's my mission. That's my goal.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Trevor Thomas and Tennille.
That's a good girl, baby. Well, I'm sure the video, I didn't get to personally see it myself, made us look a lot better than we actually were. But my name is Trevor, and more importantly, this is Tennille. Very exceptional dog in a realm of very amazing animals. And I guess for starters, from what you've seen, contrary to popular belief, I'm not crazy. Nor do I have a death wish, which some people have said. I'm just a regular guy who happens to really, really enjoy to hike, and I'm blind. I've been so for 8 years, and I've been a professional long-distance hiker for 6. The one thing that I wanted to do throughout my entire career, and had eluded me, was I wanted to be normal. I wanted to do a trail just like everybody else that I hiked with. I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny, but it took me years to figure out how to do it. So 2 years, technology had caught up. This is probably a blind person's best friend. iPhone. Steve Jobs, rest his soul, should be a patron saint for us. I figured out that if I could just find a trail that was not going to be very well traveled, that was step number 1. Number 2, have somebody painstakingly email me information out of a guidebook to this phone. It could then talk. Finally, I would sit down and keep track of my cadence and time to give me distance, hopefully anticipating what was to come, like a trail intersection. But being totally solo, I needed one more thing. I knew I wasn't always going to be able to find the things I needed, like water. That's always important. Needed those trail signs. Not really good at finding those. And I always hated my cane. So I figured I really would think a dog would be great. Could get me around town, but more importantly, I had to have a friend to be with me since my goal was to be alone. And also, maybe I could train it just to find some things for me. Well, that's what I went out to do. So I did what everybody does. I started calling guide dog schools. I started on the East Coast because that's where my home is. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I had a rude awakening. A lot of people here don't know it, but this is a very progressive school. And I'm very thankful to be a part of it. But I called the schools and systematically told them who I was, what I did for a living, and what I intended to do with their dog. And they're the ones who called me crazy. They're the ones who told me I had a death wish. They said this, what I do, a blind person should not do. And these are the people that are supposed to provide me the tools to help me achieve my goals. So by the time I got to calling the schools on the West Coast, I really expected the same from guide dogs. But after I told my same story once again, that yes, I'm the crazy blind guy who does these long-distance hikes, and I want to take one of your dogs with me on another crazy hike, the admissions counselor paused, said, that's exactly what we want to do. We would love to showcase our dogs doing amazing, interesting things. And so you welcomed me. And then started the process. I went through and I waited and waited and waited and finally got that call. Guide dog said, we have a dog. But there's a little problem. We don't know if we can train it to do what you want to do because it's never been tried. So they gave me Larissa, who I know is in the audience today because I ran into her earlier. She's a hiker. and we became her pet project. So she went above and beyond the call. While other people were back in the downtown lounge or back at the hotel, because I'm one of the between dorm people, she was taking us out to the trails, giving me the tools I needed to be able to train Tennille to do what I needed. And then got home and the real work started, because Tennille is active. Not right now, but she's active. She's a sprinter. She's fast. I needed an endurance dog. She was good till about 4 miles, but I needed my dog to do 20 miles a day in, day out, no matter the circumstance. So every day we worked, increased her stamina, took her on her shakedown hikes, got her used to all this new gear, got her used to living in a tent versus her cage at home, got her used to her backpack, got her used to her shoes, and most importantly, her sleeping bag, which she utterly adores. Did all of that and then found out, okay, we're ready. No matter how much you prepare, though, you're not really sure. Because what we were attempting to do had only been successfully completed in the 30-year history of this trail being done and hiked. 8 people had done what we wanted to do in that time frame. There were 38 that did it before that, but they had to do it in little pieces over years and years and years. So there's a thing in distance hiking that we have is, of course, Mother Nature doesn't discriminate. She doesn't care if you're smart. She doesn't care if you're not quite so bright. Doesn't care if you're in shape. Doesn't care if you're me. Doesn't care if you're blind. So I was entering the ultimate level playing field. And that's exactly where I wanted to be. So, but we also have to respect Mother Nature. And on this trek, I think we got kind of a raw deal. They say 5 days out of every 7 when you hike are going to be too cold, too hot, too wet, too humid, too something. And you live for those 2 days out of the week that are just utterly surreal. Well, when we left, we had to start late because of snow. We weren't supposed to have snow at that time of year. So we started 6 days late. Ironically enough, on the 5-year anniversary of when I first started the Appalachian Trail for my first through hike ever. And so I thought that was a good omen, right up until it started to snow and rain on us. So for the first month, it was cold, too rainy, too snowy, too sleet, too windy, and we were the first and only people on the trail this past year, so trail conditions were dreadful. Not even a trail maintainer had gone out to clear off blowdowns. So instantly I did what most rational people would do. Sat down, sopping wet, and said, "What were you thinking? You have no business being here." But my trusty Tennille said, "No, I don't think so. This is kind of fun." It was perfectly her environment. She's a lab. She loves water. She loves the cold. She grew up in the mountains in California. Me, I'm freezing to death. So that first month, we ended up at the end of that 3 weeks behind schedule because those 20-mile days I referred to that I expected very easily to be able to achieve, we were hiking 10, 12 miles a day and going 8. So by halfway, we were in danger of not even being able to finish. And the weather would not relent. I knew North Carolina, even though everybody told me, yes, this is uncommon, I knew from experience that it just couldn't be this cold, this rainy, this snowy in May. It doesn't happen in the South. So I knew eventually the weather would have to break unless there was some ice age that nobody forecasted and forgot to tell me about. So while I was praying for these better conditions, little did I know that it would come back to haunt us. Within a matter of about a week, we went from 40s and icy and cold and freezing to the upper 80s, 90s, and low hundreds and sun. We skipped that ever-famous part of the year, which is called spring. And you might have noticed, my dog is black. She's like a little solar panel, who, having grown up in sunny California where there is no humidity and it's not really hot, she had a rude awakening. Welcome to the South. So we had to adapt once again from an environment that was going to favor me and I was going to be able to thrive
My dog couldn't. We had to figure out how do we make these miles and still be able to do it safely for my dog. So we started hiking in a perfect condition for me at night. So we had to do anything we could think of. I got her all set up. The folks at Roughwear gave us shoes, gave us cooling jackets, anything we could think of to keep my dog cool so he could still make the miles. But slowly and surely, we started to gain on that 3-week deficit. Caught up 1 mile here, 1 mile there, and it really looked like we were going to be able to succeed, going to finish this thing. And then I opened my mouth. I told a trail angel who was letting us sleep in their backyard that, we got a raw deal with this weather. We got rain, snow, went on down the list. And I said, the only thing that could make this trek perfect is a hurricane in the Outer Banks. I am happy to say no hurricane. However, we got Tropical Storm Amelia that greeted us when we got there. And in case you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun. Stay in your tent under a pecan tree while a tropical storm is saying hello. We did that for 2 days. But still, Tennille came through unscathed. And we kept hiking. But finally, we got to one section. When you get to the Outer Banks, there's a series of ferries, which were really fun. And then to get to the farthest part of the islands, there's obstacles that no hiker can overcome. Most everyone that had ever done a through hike of this trail had to skip this section. But I wanted to exceed. I wanted to walk the entire thing. So luckily, being the freaks of nature that we are, we got a lot of press. And we got the attention of the Parks Department. The Parks Department picked up the phone and called the governor. And the governor said, wow, this crazy blind guy and his dog are going to walk across these bridges, which are about 2 miles long. Those big ones that the tankers drive under, and they have no shoulder. So we announced our intention that we would hike through regardless. And I can't tell you the feeling if you've ever walked down a major highway. In the middle, surrounded by troopers. Did you guys ever see Forrest Gump? Here we are. The coolest thing was, when we'd go over these, I expected all that line of cars that was about 12 miles long that was waiting for us patiently to cross this bridge. I expected them to throw rocks, maybe beer bottles or something at us. But no, they actually cheered us. And that was such an amazing feeling. And it just kept us fueled to go on and finish this amazing journey that we'd been on, and to learn that we started to touch some people's lives. That was the most amazing thing. But when we finally got to the end, it was kind of a bittersweet, as you heard in the video. It was, because we'd gone and gone and gone for 79 days through every weather condition that you can imagine. But it was very fitting when we got to finish at Jockey's Ridge State Park. Some of you might more appropriately know it. I know those on the East Coast know the importance. But those out here on the West Coast, you ever hear of 2 brothers in North Carolina that happened to take a little flight? Well, we ended our trek on the same hill, the same sand dune, which is the tallest one east of the Mississippi, where Orville and Wilbur took their flight, was our finish point. So what a more fitting experience than that. But above and beyond it, we found out we'd touch people's lives. People drove from as far as 5 hours away because they'd read about us, seen us on TV, and were touched by what we were doing. And then that governor that had sent down his state police to clear the bridges for us sent a representative. And they actually brought us a proclamation thanking Crazy Hiker Guy and his guide dog for our tireless efforts. I knew we were tired. I knew we made a lot of efforts. But for our advocacy for the blind and the visually impaired, and by God, if he didn't put it in Braille for me, which was really cool. And so just so you know, everybody in this room, I'm so pleased that you guys come out en masse to support Guide Dogs for the Blind, but it's got a special place in my heart. I mean, I'm a very able-bodied blind person. Could I get by without a guide dog? Possibly. Is life more satisfying? Yes. Do I get a chance to take a negative and turn it into a positive and educate people by my actions just by having a dog? You bet. I now have a best friend and now a business partner, because ironically enough, I'm a sponsored athlete. So is she. And here's the ironic thing. They like her better than they like me. So she is actually good for my career. So I know this is a fundraiser or a friend raiser, as I've heard it called, but I implore you, get a checkbook out, put a 1 with a whole bunch of zeros, and let these people breed more Tennilles, train more Tennilles, have the puppy raisers have the ability to be able to puppy raise more Tennilles, so other people out there, like me, will be able to achieve whatever it is that they want to go out and do. And my motto has always been, since I started doing this, is that I spend my life to figure out ways to show what is humanly possible for a blind person. And I want you to remember this. She's 3. I'm going to need another Tennille. So please donate well, and thank you so much for embracing us and having us here.